Okay, friends, here is a very real problem that I have quite a bit. One of my hidden disabilities, some of my hidden disabilities are related to inflammation problems, arthritis, bone spurs, things like that. And here is a case of having a really hard time opening this paint. So, ow. I will have to be more careful in the future to make sure that my paint is closed in a much more reasonable way. Okay, so that was a warning for all of you disabled artists out there. Don't let your paint get too gunky on the sides because it's really hard to open. Okay, now I'm not coordinated enough to continue on live video, so I'm going to stop my camera work and come back to it in just a bit. Okay, stay tuned. Don't go away. We're going to paint some more. Okay. Okay, friends, here we are. I think this is video number 3, workshop number 3, 4, I'm not sure. I think it's 3. I'm trying to record these so that I document a little bit of the paintings themselves and how I work, but also so that I can share some information about hidden disabilities, about color and healing properties, and theories about working with color and art in terms of healing and medicinal purposes. That sounds kind of new agey and weird, but there are actually quite a few fairly standard medical journal articles about the benefits of color and art therapy related to illnesses. So we'll get to that on another day. Today I wanted to start with just a little bit of information about hidden disabilities. Sometimes they're also called invisible disabilities, so if you're in the Googling kind of mood, you can look up either invisible disabilities or hidden disabilities and probably find a lot more than what I'm about to tell you. But hidden disabilities, invisible disabilities, are defined as disabilities that are not immediately apparent. In other words, you can't really see them. They could be things that are visual or auditory in nature. People who have some visual and auditory problems don't necessarily wear glasses or hearing aids. They may have incredibly discrete hearing aids that you really even can't see. And I know quite a few people who have those, and they've shared with me some of their experiences about how that's sometimes causes them some social awkwardness in different occasions. So sitting disabilities are also another category that seems to be growing. They're usually caused by chronic back pain, and people with joint problems, chronic back pain, a lot of those people don't use mobility aids all the time. They may use them sometimes. I use a cane sometimes. I even have a walker that I can use when things are really bad. But the reality is that some of these disabilities can be incredibly difficult for non-disabled people to recognize or acknowledge. And those people might not understand that a person with hidden disabilities has a problem, has a disability, if they can't see the evidence in a visible way. So hidden disabilities is kind of an umbrella term. It covers a lot of different challenges and illnesses. A lot of people think of them as being primarily neurological in order or psychiatric, and that's not really the case. There are a lot more disabilities out there that are invisible or hidden that don't have anything to do with psychiatric problems or neurological problems. If you've ever had fatigue, dizziness, pain, cognitive impairments that are so debilitating that you really can't function in a normal way, then you kind of have an idea what I'm talking about, and that other people might not be able to really understand what's causing those problems for you. Chronic pain, sleep disorders, these kinds of things are incredibly common, and at the same time they are incredibly disbelieved. I don't know how else to say it. People who have chronic pain or sleep disorders are often accused of faking it. They're accused of, oh, it's all in your head, you're just imagining that, or just get a good night's sleep, you know, that kind of a thing. But a lot of symptoms can occur due to chronic illness, chronic pain, injury, even in birth disorders that the onlooker might not always find so obvious. So when you're dealing with hidden disabilities, the kind that are not immediately apparent, you sometimes feel like you're completely alone. But I would like to share with you some statistics. About 10% of the people in the United States have a medical condition that could be considered a hidden disability. Now that's quite a few people if you think about the entire population. Nearly 1 in 2 people in the United States has a chronic medical condition of some kind. Most of those people, most of the 50% basically, are not considered disabled because their medical conditions don't significantly impair their normal everyday activities. These are often people who look perfectly normal and don't need any kind of mobility help or anything like that. Now, officially, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, which we usually refer to as ADA, an individual with a disability is a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major activities in life, has a record of such impairment, or is regarded as having such an impairment. Generally, if you see a person in a wheelchair, wearing a hearing aid, carrying a white cane, you know that person's disabled. People can tell that. But what about the people with hidden disabilities? It's a little bit harder to identify those. Diabetes, you can't really tell a person has diabetes by looking at them. Renal failure, again, sleep disorders, chronic pain, visual and auditory impairments are not always obvious. You've probably heard of chronic musculoskeletal pain, like fibromyalgia or something like that. There are estimates that between 3 and 26 million Americans suffer from that condition, and it is, well, most of the time those people are accused of it not being a real problem. So there are real problems out there. I'm going to probably talk about more hidden disabilities next time. I kind of have a list I want to go through. It's easy to talk about the ones I have because I'm so familiar with them. You talk about inflammation problems, bone spurs. You can't see the bone spurs. You can't see the arthritis. You can't see the inflammation. Well, I like to say that I look so swollen because of inflammation, but I may just be fat. And then I think it's easy for me to talk about the ones I have, but I'd like to get to some of the ones that other people have that I may not have so much experience with, but maybe we can shed some light on those too. Today, one of the strange ones that I wanted to mention is it's basically like having lupus without having lupus. The doctor who diagnosed me, a rheumatologist, said that I had medicine-induced lupus, or pharmaceutical-induced lupus is the way I think it was officially worded, which means I have a lot of symptoms of lupus without testing positive for lupus itself. And basically that's kind of a breakdown in my immune system due to all the medications I've had over my lifetime. When your immune system breaks down, a lot of bad things can happen, and apparently you can even get lupus symptoms without actually having lupus. So I will be talking about that a little bit more, and also about lupus in general, because I think lupus is another one of those disabilities that may not be so apparent to the outside eye. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the camera off again and get some paint prepared and work a little bit on my painting, adding some, I think today I'm going to add some greens in there or something. We'll see. I'm feeling a bit green around the gills, so why not? Last couple of days have been a little rougher than most, so I'm not quite as perky and strong as I normally am, But I'm here and we're gonna paint a little bit and see what happens. As Bob Ross would say, we're gonna paint some happy little somethings on there. Well, I guess I'm paraphrasing him, but we'll get something on there today to continue this painting, which today I feel very bonded with, kind of dizzy, kind of nauseous, not quite myself. We'll see where this one takes us. Okay, thank you. I'll see you in a bit. Bye. I gave you a little introduction before as to what hidden disabilities are, and I wanted to kind of run down my list. This is by no means a complete list, but it's a starting point. And what I thought we could do is kind of think about these, and then some of them would have specific examples that we can come back to on another day at another workshop, and others I want you to just kind of be thinking of similar things, similar disabilities that these might spark your attention to. So again, hidden disabilities, often referred to as invisible disabilities, are disabilities that cannot be seen. Learning disabilities are very important, and I will be doing a couple of segments on learning disabilities, especially in regards to children, because students with hidden disabilities I think have a really tough time in school, and I want to kind of address that and hopefully raise some awareness for understanding and how to kind of help them feel better and be more successful at school. So learning disabilities, attention deficit disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, environmental sensitivities. We will talk a lot about environmental sensitivities. I have a lot of those. Psychiatric disabilities. These would include major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, anxiety disorders, and post-traumatic stress disorders, things like that. A lot of those are chemical imbalances. Some of them are injury-induced. We'll be talking about some of those in depth. Hopefully I'll be able to share some stories of some of you will send me stories, and I'll be able to share some of those with our audience. Traumatic brain injury, diabetes, lupus, AIDS, cancer, hypertension, autism, epilepsy, cystic fibrosis, and a lot of medical conditions are associated with hidden disabilities. Some of those will be short-term, some will be long-term, some are stable, some are progressive, constant or unpredictable, fluctuating, and some can be controlled by medication, not exactly cured, but controlled, and some are just simply untreatable. So we'll talk some more about these specific ones and other ones as time goes on. We've got a year, and we're only in month 2 of the project, so we've got a lot of time, and follow me on Facebook, and I'll be trying to update some posts and things with a lot of this information to share with you, and hopefully get some responses from you. So thank you for your attention today, and now I'm going to work on my painting a little bit, so hold that thought. Okay, today I wanted to add some of this lovely green metallic paint to this dizzying and obnoxious painting. I call it that because that's how I feel sometimes when I have the nausea and the dizziness that comes with some of my inner ear and sinus related problems. So I want to try to do this green a little bit differently than I did the other colors. I had this idea of letting it drip, but having it be a little more constant, maybe. It's almost like a border. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. about you guys, but green is one of my favorite colors, first of all. But when you're not feeling well, if you've ever had problems with nausea and headaches and things like that, not to put too fine a point on it, but green can be a gross color. Green is quite often the color of the crap that grows in my lungs. So part of this painting reminds me of, you know, what I call my swamp, the swamp that is my lungs. But on the positive side, it's also very fresh and inspiring color, often representing spring, new growth, new beginnings, and hopefully by adding it to this particular painting, we'll get a nice mixture of possibilities in here. I really like this color. It's kind of neat. So last time we put some metallics on here and we went lots of different directions with the canvas. I didn't actually attempt to turn the canvas while I had my camera on because, number one, I'm not very strong and I thought that might look a little funny. Just see me struggling with my canvas. But then I thought, well, that's silly. My whole project is about not being very strong and learning to deal with that. And so what am I so afraid of? I should just do it. So today, I might actually try to spin this canvas while we're on camera. Oh boy, that's a scary thought. I like this. This color's good. I think by the time I'm done with this one and I'm ready to put the texture on, it's going to end up being the sharp lines of texture that will represent the red hot pokers. I think we'll have a real interesting kind of canvas going on here. I think it's going to be kind of cool. We'll see. All right. Ooh, all over the place. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can turn this. I'm gonna bump that a little bit. Okay. All right. Let's see. This way. Let's see what happens. We go that way. Drip, 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 drip. Okay, well that tells me right away I want to add a little bit more up in here. Oh yeah. Okay. I like adding all these different metallic paints on here. I think it's really interesting to see what might happen here with that. Okay, let's see. Again, with that really hard to open paints, that's ooh, it's really difficult. Boy, this one's really not wanting to open. Okay, there we go. Let's see what we have here. This color I'm mixing right now is a pearl color, so it's going to be really light, and that would be kind of cool amidst these bolder metallics. One of the reasons I love to layer paint when I'm working, I love to paint in layers and just keep building on top of what's already there. Sometimes, like I said before, sometimes it ends up being, I cover completely what I've already done and it's a whole new painting. And sometimes it's just more subtle than that, and it just keeps adding to the depth and the interest. So I can't tell yet how this one's going to end up. I really don't know, but I'm liking it so far. So, probably have to edit out some of this mixing because this could take a while. This is a paint I don't use very often. So, okay, let's get some of this going. Chunky. All right. Let's see what happens with this. Pearly stuff in here. This is such a light color. Let's see what I think about that. Huh. I like it. Sometimes the challenge of having inflamed hands is tough. I can't even get the lid on. Okay. All right. Try this one. Okay, I'm gonna spin again. Yeah. Battery died on the camera. That's why I left you there for a minute. actually want to spin twice. It's probably not the right word, spinning, but turning, turning, turning. A dizzying array of turning. Okay. I know you're wondering why I'm gasping and groaning, but it's actually heavier than it looks. So, why pretend otherwise? Okay. Okay, that's good. I like that. All right. Moving on. Next color, please. I really like some of these colors. I'm going to go back to a little bit of the gold, I think. No, maybe it's a copper. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. What's this one? This will be interesting. Yeah, I gotta get some music down here because otherwise I just oddly hum to myself and that might just be weird. So, okay, let's see. This needs some of this gold color dripping a little bit more. This is what happens when you're experimenting. I think I tend to see a certain pattern. Sometimes, and enhancing that pattern or adjusting with it can sometimes be a bit of an issue, a bit of a problem. Yeah. The edges are always hard for me. Normally I paint on the floor. I paint sitting down. So finding these edges while I'm standing and falling is really a different kind of process for me. It's actually a huge challenge for me to visualize these corners in a cohesive and artistic way. Normally I don't think about the corners, the edges, until much later in my process. So trying to incorporate some edge work for what I want to have the edges end up like is a little different. I feel the need to spin, so we're going to spin again. All right, here we go. Oh, which way do I want to go? That's a good question. Well, I think I want to go this way. Okay. Again, probably someone else could do that really smoothly, easily. Wouldn't look so awkward and heavy and grunty and groany, but hey, I am not that person. So, okay. Go here. You know, I'm starting to think this looks a little bit like a forest. You know, like an abstract of a walk in a woodsy forest. Thinking of when I used to visit my grandparents in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, walking among the forest there with the ferns and the pine trees and, you know, up above the Columbia River, just in the hills, Portland Hills. And when I lived in Georgia, the Spanish moss hanging down out of the pine trees, and this is starting to make me think of all those places, as well as Indiana. The woods in Indiana can be so beautiful different times of year. So I'm starting to get a lot of interesting connections to this piece that go beyond Hidden Disabilities for me. It goes to places I've lived and loved. So that's interesting. I like it when that happens. Okay. Here's a slightly different bronzy color. I'm gonna see what happens. This one, not sure. It's a little different. It's a little more red in a way. The bronze, a little more vivid. More of a red bronze, I guess. It's hard to say. I gotta step back and. Oh yeah, this area in here is very cold. Get some bronze going in there. Oh, what a pretty color. I really like it. Some edging, yeah. Because again, the sides will form on my red hot pokers. So I want to get some of those going in here. But yeah, why not? Okay, I kind of like that. Oh, the forest. The forest is calling. Yeah. Some in there. I gotta turn it again. Yeah, I think so. Huh. A little bit more of that red. A little bit more of that reddish. I like that a lot. All right. Yeah, time to turn her. Let's go backwards. I don't know which way's forward and which way's backwards anymore. Okay. Whew. Okay. Okay. Well, I like that. It's interesting. To me, it's interesting. Put a little bit more of this dark color here and there, over here. Connect the dots a little bit more, as it were. Right up in here. anyway, I will have to say, this paint really smells bad. It is about more than I can take. So, I think with the last applications here, a little bit here and there, I'm going to say, Revum dare cheese. Revum dare cheese. Because this is kind of cool. I like it. Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. That's good. Application of, oops, learned my lesson last time. Wipe off the outside edge of the paint because it'd be hard to open otherwise. All right. I'm a really messy painter. It's one of the reasons my floor here is covered with drop cloths taped into place, so they are permanently secured to protect the floor of this building, which I am fortunate enough to have access to for this project. I like this. This is good. I like it. We're dripping away. Drip, drip, drip. Okay. All right. So next time, who knows what we'll do next time. I'm thinking we're gonna add some other colors in here. I'm liking the way it's filling up. I'm liking the layering. That forest idea is really calling to me, as is, I know it's hard to see in the video, but the textured swirls that lie just underneath the paint, that hold the paint, really have a nice effect with the layering of the colors. So I'm excited to come back to this one, but I feel like it needs to percolate, drip, and settle a little bit. So anyway, thank you for coming today and watching me work and listening to me drone on about invisible disabilities. Again, find me on the Facebook and send me your stories about your experiences with hidden disabilities, whether you have some or you know someone who has some. I really want to incorporate some of those stories into my artwork for this project. This is only the second painting in my project. I'm doing 10 to 12 paintings, probably 12, because I'm fixated on that number with this project to make it a full year. Anyway, I look forward to creating some that represent some of the experiences that you guys have. So you have the forms you can fill out and leave them at the door, and I'll see you YouTube online audience next time. You better be following me. You better be subscribed, because we're coming back with more. Okay, more disabilities, more paint, more fun. Okay, have a great week. See you next time.